Lewis Hamilton has just been exposed, not by a rival, not by the media, but by his own team boss. Frédéric Vasseur has finally broken the silence, and what he's just revealed about Hamilton's struggles with Ferrari is nothing short of shocking. This isn't just about a bad result in Saudi Arabia. Vasseur has laid bare the deep-rooted problems behind Lewis's disappointing start to life in red, from the SF25's unpredictable behavior to his battle with ground effect, and even how he stacks up against Charles Leclerc. Vasseur has exposed the truth, and it's brutal. And here's where it gets really wild. This wasn't supposed to happen. Hamilton's switch to Ferrari was meant to be historic. The greatest driver of the modern era joining the most legendary team in Formula One. But now, just 4 races in, that dream is already cracking. And if Vasseur's words are anything to go by, the problems go much deeper than anyone thought. Before we break down every word Vasseur said, and why it changes everything you thought you knew about this partnership, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, and stay locked in until the end of the video. Let's get into it. In Jeddah, Hamilton could only manage 7th place. That's where he started, and that's where he finished, more than 30 seconds behind Charles Leclerc, who, crucially, was on the same strategy. And while Hamilton called the race horrible, what came after was even more telling. He didn't blame the car. He didn't blame the team. Instead, he blamed himself, saying half-jokingly that he needs a brain transplant to adapt to the SF25. But here's where things get wild. Vasseur then came forward with his own assessment, and what he said changes everything. Vasseur explained that the gap between Hamilton and Leclerc isn't really visible in the data. The telemetry isn't showing massive differences in driving style or braking points. Instead, it's about how Hamilton is reacting to the ground effect regulations, and more specifically, how this generation of car works against his natural instincts. Hamilton has built his career on late braking, aggressive entries, and total confidence in the car's feedback. But with the SF25 and ground effect cars in general, that approach simply doesn't work. These cars demand earlier braking, smoother steering, and less input mid-corner. It's about maintaining the floor's aerodynamic seal, and if you can't do that, you lose all the grip. That's why drivers like Leclerc, who've grown up in this era and adapted to these traits, are thriving. Hamilton, by contrast, is still trying to rewire his instincts. Every lap is a battle, every corner a compromise. And even when he pushes, the car pushes back. But Vasseur went even further. He pointed out that while Hamilton is struggling to extract lap time, Leclerc is consistently able to find performance. Not because he's driving harder, but because he's working with the car, not against it. Hamilton admitted that even though he's watching the data, studying onboards, and doing everything possible to improve, the gap remains. "I try everything, and the car just doesn't want to work with us," he said after Jeddah. And when asked if things might improve in Miami, Hamilton simply said, "It's going to be painful." That's the word that's been haunting this season. Painful, not difficult, not frustrating, painful. Now let's talk team dynamics, because this is where things get political. Ferrari brought Hamilton in to lead, to inspire, to bring championship pedigree. But when your star driver is struggling and your homegrown talent is shining, the balance shifts, quietly, subtly, but inevitably. Engineers start to believe more in the driver who delivers. Strategy starts to favor the driver who qualifies higher. And development, it starts to lean toward the setup preferences of the one scoring podiums. Right now, that's Leclerc. Vasseur didn't say Hamilton is failing, but he made it clear the car isn't going to change overnight. Hamilton has to adapt. And the more time that takes, the more control slips into Leclerc's hands. And this is where the real drama starts to unfold. Because Hamilton didn't leave Mercedes to play second fiddle. He came to Ferrari to write a final, glorious chapter in his career, to fight for wins, to lead a renaissance. And let's be clear, it's not just about the SF25 anymore. It's about identity. Lewis Hamilton didn't come to Maranello to play catch-up. He didn't leave Mercedes, where he was a team leader and legend, to become the underperforming second act to Charles Leclerc. But that's what the numbers are saying. That's what the qualifying gaps are saying. That's what Vasseur is now saying. And unless there's a breakthrough, the tension will only escalate, from frustration to full-blown friction. We're not just watching a tough start, we're watching a clash of philosophies. A driver whose instinct is late braking, car rotation, edge control, against a new generation aero concept that demands patience, early inputs, and a completely different rhythm. It's almost poetic, a living legend being asked to forget what made him great just to stay competitive. That's not a small ask. That's a transformation. So the real question becomes this: how long can both sides keep believing in the same dream if the results don't change? How long before the engineers start leaning more on Leclerc's data? How long before the upgrades favor his style? How long before the media narrative starts painting Hamilton's Ferrari move as a mistake? A romantic notion that never stood a real chance? And don't underestimate the impact of that kind of perception. Formula One is a sport of momentum, but also of belief. Teams build around the driver who's bringing home the results. And right now, that's not Lewis Hamilton. But if you know anything about Hamilton's career, it's that he thrives when he's doubted, when he's cornered, when everyone writes him off. If there's one driver who can still rewrite this story, it's him. But the window is closing. The European rounds are coming. The pressure is rising. And Ferrari's top brass, including Vasseur, are now saying the quiet parts out loud. So what do you think? Has Vasseur made the situation harder or clearer? Is Hamilton's adaptation just delayed or doomed from the start? Can Ferrari build something that lets both drivers flourish, or is a divide already forming in Maranello? Tell us in the comments. We want your take on this. And if you've stayed with us all the way through this breakdown, thank you.